Hi, we're Callum and Jenny, and we're from Burst Radio.
And today we're going to talk to Fluff, a one-man band from Exeter.
All right, thank you very much, Ollie, for joining us. So we just want to start off. How did you start by getting into music?
So I started in music probably like school GCSE time, so 15. I was playing bass predominantly, and I got into a lot of American punk. So the drummer in the band at the time was very much into like NoFX, Anti-Flag, Rancid. Really weird mix for a 15-year-old in our time, like, really odd. But yeah, he's kind of put all those on us, and I think the first album I probably listened to was Blood and Glory by Anti-Flag, and that kind of got me into the punk kind of scene, and that's where kind of music started kind of picking up. But yeah, just a cool band really. Yeah, pretty good stuff. Just young.
I just want to know, how did that then transition into Fluff, your current project, obviously?
So this drummer that I was in band in school, he then had a separate project outside of school, a band called UK's Lowest. Their bassist, or they were about to go on tour, and their bassist broke his jaw before he went out. And he was told by the doctors not to go out, not to do the tour kind of thing, so I had to fill in on this tour. From that, I got into the band. From that, I became a permanent member. We got signed. We got like gigs in Europe, booked in Boomtown, like, some big stuff. We were like 17. It was like we were really picking up. And the singer just went cold one day. That was it. So he just got bored. I think he started working like quite a good job, getting quite a bit of money. And just kind of took over. That was just absolutely fine. But it was a bit disappointing to see a 17-year-old. So off the back of that, I was just like, I've kind of been let down by this and this, and I don't want that to be the case again. So I started doing what I can do it by myself. So no one else for me to let down, and no one else to let me down. So I can take my own kind of pace. If I want to push hard, I can push hard. If I want to ease off, I can ease off. So that's where the whole kind of idea of a one-man band came up. I was listening to a lot of Slaves, Idols, and like kind of World by that time. So like, use those pedals. Yeah, so that's where the sound came from, and then yeah.
Does that get stressful though? Because you don't have anyone to let down and no one to let you down, but also everything is down to you, and you have to pick up all the slack.
Yeah, it's difficult, especially with writing, because I've got to motivate myself. I'm not the easiest person to get going. Best kind of analogy is like it's a bit of a flywheel. It just takes ages to get going, and as soon as it's going, it's fine. It can't stop. But as soon as I start taking one off the ball again, it's like I kind of fall into a slump, and like, I would have written anything for months and months. And it's just one of those, isn't it? But yeah, there's a lot of kind of onus on being my own boss, if that makes sense in the weirdest way. But yeah.
What about the name? Is there an inspiration behind the name, or is it really just a random name?
The name came about, I was in a covers band at the time, so I've been in many bands. Crazy amount of bands. And their name at the time was called Easy Meaning. It was a pretty poor name. Like there's no other way. It's just pretty poor. There was nothing. We all hated it, but no one could be asked to change it. And then I think they wanted to rebrand, because I was playing bass, and I was more like a sub member rather than a full member, because everybody's been in there like the whole time. I was saying, well, if you're gonna rebrand, or if you're gonna like change your sound, why don't you change your name, start again? Because they were all about like moving away and doing bits and bobs. So I want to start fresh completely. So we're talking about getting new band names, and we were like getting really analytical about it, saying, one name bands are quite in at the moment, and the bands are out, and it's like, oh, for God's sake. And then it got to the point where we were looking at random word generators, and that was just like ticking through essentially. I don't know, stupid things like table, door, and stuff like that. And then Fluff came up, I thought, oh, that'd be funny, Fluff. And I said it out loud, and then I was like, yeah, we're not calling it that. I was like, I might call myself that. And that was genuinely how it came about. I just put it in my notes, and then 6 months later I thought, yeah, I'll go for that.
So last year you released your EP Barbed Braces. What was the process like writing that, getting that out, releasing it during COVID? What was that all like?
So the whole COVID break thing didn't really touch me too much. I was off off work full time. So I was off work for about 5 months in 2020, and then the rest I was working through. And I released it last year, so I was kind of in the mindset thing. I want to get something out because I was like pushing it after COVID and trying to get out of the gate early. And to be fair, I think I have. But I just wanted to make sure I had like an actual body of work that I could push, rather than having like 3 singles at a time, which is fine. I was going to do some more singles, but I wanted to have like at least your top 5 on Spotify, because it makes it a bit more of an established entity, if that makes sense. Although obviously there are bands that are absolutely fine with just like 2 songs that I was mental, but yeah, but I'll give myself an actual leg up. So I decided on doing an EP. And I was talking to some recording people after I got the BBC Introducing stuff. I had some engineers come to me and say, "Oh, do you want to record this? Do you want to do a session?" Because they kind of need to sell themselves and get their own business, so they're just kind of approaching me. And off those conversations, I got to the point where I wanted to do like a 5-track EP, and ended up being 6 with the extra at the end. But yeah, the whole kind of writing process came about that. So I filled myself out like a little spec. I wanted to make sure I had 5 songs, turned into 6. And I just kind of chipped away at it as I went. I used riffs I've written back over the years on my voice notes and on my videos. It sounds really cringy because that's what all musicians say. Oh yeah, just record yourself and you forget about it. And it come back, and it was literally one of those things. So I just used those kind of videos, voice notes, and like kind of chord charts and got my way through it. I'm really bad at writing lyrics. It takes me ages, but a couple of songs just kind of came straight off the bat, and songs were absolutely pulling teeth.
I'm glad you mentioned the BBC Introducing, because I wanted to just like talk about that. Like, what what sort of impact? You already mentioned that you had like engineers reaching out to you. Did you see like any other big impacts, and like what sort of like feelings did you get when you found out you were featured on it and things like that?
Well, Introducing is one of those weird things where it just kind of happened, and the ball's just kind of got rolling, and it's not really stopped. Like at the time I did my first upload, it was for Tea and Toast, and it was actually this time last year. So it was March, early March time. There was a competition for a live lounge with Introducing. So each region of Introducing had their a week window of uploads. If you uploaded in that week window, you then you're eligible for the live lounge competition. So I thought, I'll just do that. See how it goes. Just work, nothing to lose, I think.
Yeah.
And then it got picked up, it got played, and it got uploaded for a week. So, okay. Right. So this is a song that I released in 2018, late 2018, and I've not touched it, not pushed it, and then I just uploaded it. Thought, yeah, it sounds great. Just give it a go. And yeah, it got uploaded the week, and then they got to pass 2 entries on to the next stage, and I was the 3rd one. So I got number 3 out of all the uploads, but I was like, that's a bit disappointing. But then I thought about it a bit more. I was like, oh, wow, that's really, really good.
Yeah.
So that's kind of pushed me to write more and release more. So off the back of that, kind of gave me the momentum to do L.L.TOM and then the EP later on. So out of Introducing, the most prominent thing that's kind of happened and come out of it was my own motivation.
Yeah.
As far as like gig offerings, it's listen to post-punk related.
So something I really wanted to ask about. Am I right that you were involved in the Isle of Wight New Blood competition?
Yes.
What was that like? Because that's really cool to be involved with.
Yeah, it's again one of those weird things. I thought nothing to lose. I was putting my name forward for it. So I saw a guy I'm quite close with, or close friends with in Exeter, a guy called Ollie. He's like ambient folk, incredible musician. Yeah, very, very talented guy. And he put himself forward, and he got through to the same stage that I'm now through as well. So basically you just put an application in, say I'm this and this, so you've got your bios, your links, and you've got like a live video in. And then that then gets put through to the judging stage, or like an initial screening stage, and you get through to the voting stage. So he got through to the voting stage, which was cool. I thought I'd just go like, I'll do it as well, just give it a go. And yeah, I also got through. So we're now at the stage where public votes are essentially what can push you through to the next level. If not, then there's a separate stage where you can go to like a battle of bands situation. But I think I missed the boat on the battle of bands stuff.
And on that sort of, talking about like branching out and things like that, obviously you're very based in the southwest and things like that. How do you find playing shows in that sort of area? Because on one hand, I think it's quite spread out, and there's not really a big city for it. But on the other hand, there is massive followings for a lot of bands in those sort of cities. So, what's it like just playing in the southwest?
It's strange playing in the southwest because there's not as many venues as you'd like there to be. But in the same sense, that also creates a bit of like an exclusivity. So in Exeter, for example, there's like the Cabin. Up until now, that has been it for independent music.
Yeah.
There's another venue that's opening up, Move Live, which is down on the Quay, which I'm going to be slightly involved with. I'll be running at that, which is quite cool. Until now, there is no other competition in Exeter. So if you want to go see a live band, if you want to go see some originals, you go to the Cabin. So you can get quite a lot of footfall from people just being curious and popping in, and with it being like underground, and there's like a really, really well placed air vent which spreads onto the main street, so you can hear everything from the main street. It's really cool. So you get a lot of kind of random footfall, which is quite good. But as far as like actually giggling in the southwest, there's not an awful lot you can do without stepping on anyone's like kind of toes, and like kind of if you book the same venue twice within a month, it's like you're gonna kind of dilute yourself. It's a bit difficult, and I'm trying to branch out more. So I'm hitting Plymouth quite regularly, and got to Bristol tonight, obviously. Obviously played that last weeks ago. I've got another one in April coming up. So just trying to branch out where you can, but it's being one-man band. I've got to drive myself everywhere, and having so much gear in the car, I don't like leaving it out in the open by itself. So I mean, there's a lot of equipment I've got to lug around with me. So leaving my lovely estate car as it is in the streets of X, Y, and Z city is a bit daunting. So it takes sleeping over at like a promoter's house and like that just to make it easier. It becomes a bit more of a challenge because I'd like to unload the car before I go to bed, kind of thing. 3 o'clock in the morning, you got to wake up at 6. Like I made it drive home. Right? So I'm struggling to get out of Bristol and Plymouth. There's a couple of promoters I know in the Oval that are trying to push the Oval, which is going to be interesting. But again, it's quite a small scene as far as I understand. I'd like to go to like Bournemouth, sorry, and like kind of just branch out in the south a little bit. But yeah, without booking a tour, it's quite difficult to do that one night thing. Definitely working full time. Yeah. So I haven't got much holiday left this year, annoyingly. But I'd like to book like a little mini tour and really go south cities, I guess just to go off the map, Plymouth, Bristol, and then Reading, London, come back, and Southampton, like that, and then just tune it back on the last day. But that's going to be a ball ache because the amount of energy I've got to put out on stage to entertain an audience as one person isn't a small task.
No, I can imagine.
So it's funny you brought that up because I was going to ask, you're kind of on tour at the moment. I understand the dates are a bit spread out, but like it is a tour. How has that been, setting that up, getting ready for it? I guess you touched on it then, but just what was the rest of that process like?
It's actually been a lot easier than I realised. So if I was booking a specific tour, I would like to obviously kind of put in a couple of days, like, just help me every day, 2 days. The setup that I've got going now is I've just got like weekend gigs, a lot of weekend gigs coming up, and up until December last year, I really struggled to get gigs, just because I couldn't really sell myself, I couldn't pitch it, I couldn't quite make my setup seem as simple as it. It's a really simple setup. It's just quite daunting to someone who, first of all, can't explain it, and someone who doesn't really want to spend the time looking into it. Because if you Sam and Middle, for example, if they've spent 3 or 4 years just blasting out 3 or 4 big bands, it's just drum hits, vocals, 2 lines of guitar. Whereas with mine, it's still got too much guitar and vocals, but more drums on the boombox. So I'm scared people sometimes, and that's what I found has been a bit of a, not a language barrier, but like a kind of miscommunication. But since I got the Exeter gigs early on this year, I've had gigs pick up and offer for me. Like I'm not had to ask anything great. So for example, tonight I was picked up by Donut Records to play in Crawford. Next week I added a promoter on Facebook, but only because of a guy from work said, "Oh, just add him and see what happens." And he messaged me saying, "Do you want to play a gig?" I was like, "Yeah, sounds ace." And again, the last week, same thing. I just was friends with the promoter, and there was some offer that came up. So I thought, yeah, it sounds awesome. So I'm not actually booking anything. It's all kind of coming to me, which is quite nice. I've got a feeling that's going to try out pretty soon. It can only last for so long, and I'll have to start pushing it again and get my EPK sorted out. But yeah. It's been a really straightforward, unnervingly straightforward situation.
Don't complain.
I'm basking in it right now.
I just want to know, basically, so you just mentioned then, is there more music we can expect soon, or anything new coming up, or is it at the moment more a writing process or anything?
So I've got some ideas in mind, and like I say, I've said earlier I was going to be working with a producer potentially for this next string of releases. I'm not too sure what it's going to look like yet, but I am in a process where I'm aware it's in the back of my mind. I need to start writing again soon because I've been recycling that. So my set list can't change just on the USB stick. If I have to, rip all my songs off, and then I've got to re-export them, because it's all in date format as well. So I've got to export them off of my audio software in the order I want it, including the breaks, for it to then come out on the USB right. It is a brain ache, so I play the same set the majority of the time, if not I'm skipping through songs. So I'm aware that people that have followed me around, that there are a couple of people that have been to 5 or 6 mile gigs. They're not amazing, but they've seen the same thing 6 times. So I'm aware I've got to kind of switch up a little bit soon. So yeah, I'm in a writing mindset of kind of like just getting the wheels turning again and getting through. But I'm thinking potentially something out before March. I've got to get recorded, or written recorded, drums sorted. So maybe like June, mid-June, like that. Essentially, I'm thinking about a single, maybe a dual release at some point. The guy that I'm thinking of working with has given me like 4 songs, like a 4-track EP, so I might just go in and say, oh, we'd like some 4 songs, but I want it some separately, it depends what he's able to do it into. But yeah, I think I'm going to get a boatload of stuff done. A fluff boatload of stuff done.
Well, that's pretty much everything we had to ask. Is there anything else that you want to discuss or promote, or?
Well, I've not actually got much on at the moment. Obviously, other than gigs, I'm just gigging. So if you're interested in popping down to the show, come to the shows. Yeah, and just pop me a follow sort of now. And just so that's about it, really. If you want to vote for that, the right thing, it's in my bio.
Get on that quick.
Just kind of cruising on the moment. It's been nice, and I'm doing obviously college outside of work, obviously, but I am doing college outside of work, so my free time's quite sought after, let's say. Try and get my brain to focus when I'm in downtime mode a bit. But yeah, I'll get this when the winter's out. Well, I just go with hibernation in the winter. It's awful. Everyone says it's like seasonal adaptive disorder, but I don't like to put a label on things. But it's like my sleep goes down, my focus goes down, my work ethic just like plummets. Come springtime, I'll probably be flying again. But yeah, it's one of those.
Well, it's looking good. Weather's getting better.
Yeah.
Shows are back on soon, so hopefully.
It's going well.
Hopefully we'll get better. Yeah. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks for chatting.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Yeah. And have a great show tonight, and the rest of your shows as well. All right. Well, thank you so much again.
Thanks so much for meeting us.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck.
You're welcome. Yeah. Thank you.